acid-base disorders. There are several questions asked every year in acid-base disorders. At least 2 to 3 minimum questions are asked, but many a times students are making mistakes in it. This 2 minute to 3 minute short video will help you to analyze it, and we can diagnose all the disorders with this knowledge. So let's talk about acid-base disorders. First thing is the ABG gas analysis will be given in any acid-base question. They will give you three parameters, three important parameters. One is the pH, the second one is bicarbonate, and the third one is PCO2 levels. If they are given additional information also, nothing to worry. Only with this three information we can sufficiently diagnose all the acid-base disorders. So coming to the pH, just remember pH is the king of the game. He is like the king of the game. So he is the one who is going to determine the primary disorder. So pH, just remember, he is the king of the game. So whatever his pH is telling me, whether the pH tells me is an acidosis or it is an alkalosis, that will be the primary disorder. So whatever the pH tells, it is an acidosis or alkalosis, that is going to be the primary determinant. So pH is like the deciding factor here. Then coming to bicarbonate levels tells about the metabolic disorder. If the bicarbonate levels are high, which I am going to tell the values, then it is metabolic alkalosis, because bicarbonate is an alkaline substance. It is going to determine the metabolic disorder. Then coming to the PCO2 level, CO2 obviously it is produced by the respiratory system. So it is the respiratory system which is sending it out of the body. So it denotes the respiratory disorder. Respiratory disorder. Its value indicates the respiratory disorders. Now we have to know a few things that will help us for diagnosis. So what is the normal pH? I have written here 7.4. Whenever the pH goes beyond 7.45, the pH, whenever levels are increasing, it is an logarithmic inverse log of H plus. So what is happening? So the H plus levels are coming down. So this indicates alkalosis. Then coming to the pH whenever it is less than 7.35, it is decreased. That is called as acidosis. So I have to remember these values. Then coming to the bicarbonate, I told you bicarbonate levels indicate the metabolic syndromes, metabolic disorders. So whenever it goes beyond 26, we call it as metabolic alkalosis. It is called as metabolic alkalosis. Then whenever its level goes below 22, 24 is the normal value, 2 plus or minus 2, 26 is metabolic alkalosis, 22 is metabolic acidosis. Then coming to the CO2 levels, whenever the PCO2 levels, 40 is the normal, whenever the level goes beyond 45, it is called as, now CO2 is accumulating, so it is called as respiratory acidosis. When bicarbonate accumulates, it is called alkalosis, but when CO2 accumulates, it is called as acidosis. Respiratory acidosis. Then if it is falling below 35, 40 is the normal, plus or minus 5. So coming to this, here it is respiratory alkalosis, because CO2 is less, alkalosis. Now in our body, what happens is the respiratory system, whenever it is getting into trouble, his friend will come as a savior, that is the kidneys, and do the metabolic changes. In a similar manner, when kidney is failing, respiration will try to change its values. So coming to this, usually the respiratory acidosis will be compensated by what? It is compensated by metabolic alkalosis. Then coming to the other point, that is respiratory alkalosis will be compensated by what? Will be compensated by metabolic acidosis. Kidney will start conserving acidosis. So this is both ways. If it is a metabolic alkalosis, then respiratory acidosis will happen. In a similar manner, metabolic acidosis, respiratory alkalosis will happen. So this is a both way process, and the compensation mechanism happens like this. It is compensated by, you can write compensated by these mechanisms. So let's try out some examples and let's finalize what is going to happen. Let's see the first example. In the first example, see, pH is given 7.32. And what is it? Acidosis or alkalosis? I told you whenever the pH is less than 7.35, it is acidosis. So write down here acidosis. When any question is given, write down three values. This is going to help us in diagnosis. Then the bicarbonate says that it is 28. Just go back and see the bicarbonate, whenever it is going beyond 26, it is called as metabolic alkalosis. Metabolic, this person is having metabolic alkalosis. Then 46 PCO2. There is accumulation of CO2. So what is this? This is respiratory acidosis. So acid is there, so acidosis. Now, which is the primary disorder, which is the secondary disorder, or compensated by what? I told you who is the king of the game. That is, the king of the game is the pH. So whenever the pH is more, it is causing acidosis. Whoever follows the king, that is the primary disorder. In this, who is following the king? There is one acidosis. You just have to pick it up. The acidosis here. So the respiratory acidosis is the primary disorder. So we have to identify which is the primary disorder. Whoever is following the king, that will be the primary disorder. Just we have to find the pH first, decide whether it is acidosis or alkalosis. Then choose the follower. Whoever follows this, that will be the primary disorder. So in our case, in our first example, the answer for this question is, it is respiratory acidosis compensated by, I told you it will be compensated also, compensated by metabolic alkalosis. So this is the entire key for this entire question. Let's take another example. Here the pH is 7.5. I told you whenever it is more than 7.45 itself, it is an alkalosis. So the primary disorder is going to be an alkalosis. Then bicarbonate is 24. 24 is acidosis, alkalosis. It is normal. Then coming to the PCO2 levels. See the CO2 levels, it is less. So acid is not there. So this is a respiratory, because it is a respiratory disorder. CO2 levels indicates a respiratory disorder. It is a respiratory alkalosis. And it is not compensated. Maybe it's an early stage of disease where it is not compensated. So if the person is hyperventilating, he can have this kind of phenomena like respiratory alkalosis. And the bicarbonate levels are normal, so the metabolic component is not yet compensating. Maybe it's a minor disorder. So with this key, we can easily write out all the MCQs in the acid-base disorders.